Hey guys, welcome back to Doc Lil Talks Comics in my humble abode with my comic room. So I know we've done some videos in the dining room again for the past couple of days, but now that I'm feeling back to about 100%, then we can come back into the comic room. So we haven't done one of these videos in a while. We're going to continue the Mark Bagley retrospective on ASM. And I know that I've been kind of going over the story, like I do a lot of reviews on the channel, but I want to talk more technically about Mark's artwork in this particular episode. So let's take a look at issue number 355. We are now halfway through. We're at part 3 of 6 with Round Robin the Sidekick's Revenge. And you still get Mark Bagley on the artwork, of course, but I've noticed one thing, and this is it right here. Bagley a lot of times embellishes the face of the Punisher, okay? Even on the cover, you can see that he makes those lines deeper and darker and his wrinkles more prominent. And it's like he's drawing Frank Castle as an older man than the rest of these heroes. I know that Frank is supposed to be older than Spider-Man is. At this point we're talking that Pete's in his probably early 20s and Frank, is probably in his early 30s or so he's 10 years older. But as I was reading this and looking through it, I noticed that he still gets the action completely right. And part of this too, I guess, could be the fact that maybe, here you've got the inker on the cover was Klaus Janson. So that answers a little bit of it by showing you that Janson's inks are grittier and more intense. But let's see, where was I? I think I went too far. But you also see how good Mark has gotten with creating new villains. Even though it is a bi-monthly book and they're knocking it out, boom, 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 and Mark just started on the title. So don't forget, he had 350 and 351, which was a two-parter with the Tri-Sentinel. And now he's getting tossed into drawing Moon Knight, Night Thrasher, Spider-Man, Punisher, the Secret Empire, Midnight, and now he's got 3 new characters called the Seekers. And it says seen previously in Iron Man 214 and Fantastic 342. So they're not new to Marvel, but they're new to Spider-Man. But here again, I wanted to point out, look how deep in Frank's face not the scars, but the facial features and the lines, how it makes him look like he's 45 or going on 50, as opposed to being, like I said, probably in his early to mid 30s. So you get to see in another panel, he looks like he's got the body of a 30-something-year-old. Frank Castle uses primarily weapons more so than his fists like Batman does, but they're cut from the same cloth. They're out to scare people, they're out to intimidate, but more importantly, they have both pushed their bodies to the physical limits of humankind, okay? It's like that page that you see in How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way by John Buscema. They show a normal, quote unquote, normal human being kind of, faced off this way. And, and Stan Lee in his writing says, that guy's no slouch. But then you get to see Captain America, and of course I can't make myself that much taller, but he is the pinnacle of human form. Okay, his back is as straight as can be. His musculature is just perfect. And so you get to see the human form for the Punisher. And like I said, he just looks a lot younger in that pose, even though he's falling and passing out, than he did from other angles. So it's interesting to see that Mark's artwork is starting to grow up and develop. Like I said before, the one thing I like about Mark's artwork at this point is the lines and the musculature in Spider-Man's legs and in people's legs. You get to see that again here in Frank Castle. That the Mark Bagley we get now, the line work is much more, it's not as thin, okay? You've got thin lines and then you've got thicker lines. And you can see that again in the legs of Spider-Man and Moon Knight and Night Thrasher, is that he delineates the musculature in the legs, and they're very small, thin lines compared to how his stuff looks now. So it's not a knock. As you get older, you do more with fewer lines, and you also learn how to push yourself. Even though your eyesight's not as good as it once was, then you thicken up those lines in the pencils or in the inks so that it looks, it's more visible to you as the penciler, since you're the one that's having to do all this work. So that was issue 355 by Al Milgrom and Mark Bagley and Randy Emberlin. I'm trying to remember who else. Danny Fingeroth was the editor. All right. But see, they're throwing you off here, because here's the cover to 356, and look how young Frank Castle looks there. His face is not as scarred up with stress, and you get to see it here as he's laying down as well, that he just looks like a younger man. So could be the inks, could be the pencils on Bagley's part, but he's always got interesting figure work, and it's little tiny things like this where you've got Dr. Franklin walking away and everybody else is just kind of standing around. It's not always what you say with the words in the comic, it's how the artist interprets things, and it could be that somebody like Nova is in pain, okay? And he's really just busted up here, and Franklin is testing him out. And let's see. Any verdict on whether adding cyborg components would negatively impact on his natural abilities? And they said, that's impossible to determine at this time. He says, I wonder who shut off the transmission security device. So you get to see that even in a situation where you've got multiple villains who have the same outfit, you can almost differentiate them by the way they stand, by the way that they talk, their body language. It's a lot to take in, and especially, imagine if I had started collecting with this part of the series instead of collecting it at 360 like I started. The book's coming out twice a month. You've got to pick it up twice a month. The artwork is top notch. It's amazing. But at the same time, you're spending, what is it, $1 every 2 weeks instead of $1 every month. So I know that doesn't sound like a lot now, but when you're a kid, and this was from 1991, so when you're a kid and you're 9, 10 years old like I was, you got to make that dollar stretch. Because my uncle would take me to comic shops when I was a kid, and we would go through there, and I think he'd give me like $5 a week to go buy comics. And at that time, sometimes I had to choose between getting any comics and getting the Wizard magazine, because Wizard started out at $3.95 and then went to $4.95. So I started cutting grass with my dad when I was 12. so that I'd have the money to go buy these books and have a little bit of play money. But I don't want to get distracted. What do you guys think about this Mark Bagley retrospective? What do you think about his early artwork versus his newer artwork? I still love the guy. He just did the cover to Amazing Spider-Man number 30. 2 weeks ago? Or a week? Yeah, a week ago. So he's still very, very proficient. He's very fast-paced. Now, I think they said that he had some sort of shoulder surgery or something like that, so he's said that for right now he's not going to do interiors at this moment. But, I mean, the man has given, 40 plus years to the industry. So, let's understand that he's getting older and that he needs a little bit of a break. But, anywho, let me know what you think about this ASM retrospective on Mark Bagley and his artwork and how his artwork's changed over the years. Would you rather me continue to talk about and kind of review the books more so than talk about Bagley's art? I kind of feel like that's where we should go, though, is to discuss some of the technicalities of his artwork. And I just dipped my toe into that pond because I'm not an artist myself. I know about vanishing points. I know the composition. I've read How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way multiple times. So we can talk about the technicalities of it, even though I'm not an artiste, if that's what you guys would rather do. So, anywho, guys, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will catch you next time.